gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Stay Weird Network proudly brings you its newest show, Cards Subject to Change, with Hassel. And this week right here, we're going to put the death lock on none other than what if Sting was the third man. So for those of you that may or may not know, the OG plan for the NWO was for Sting, in fact, to be the third man of the NWO. But, like most things in WCW at the time, the Hulkster looked at it and said, "Don't work for me, brother." And he seen the dollar signs attached to Hall and Nash, and he knew there was money to be made there. Thus, Hogan took over and became the third man, and the rest is history as we know it. Now, I will say, it probably worked out much, much better with Hogan, just for the simple fact that this reignited Hogan's career. It's the greatest heel turn in the history of pro wrestling. I will say that whether you like Hogan or hate Hogan, that's not, neither here nor there. I get it. He's done some pretty shitty things in the last 15 years or so. But at the time, he was Americana. The fact that he turned was perfect. The writing was on the wall. But what if? What if Sting had done it? Up until this point, Sting, once leaving the Blade Runners, had been a face going all through the rest of his career. He had a brief run in UWF with Eddie Gilbert as a little bit of a hillish type person. But for the most part, from day one, WCW, NWA, he was the face. He was the franchise. He was the man who was a face. He was a good guy. He had always been the cornerstone of WCW. Never once leaving, faltering, and going to the WWF when all his peers did. So what if Sting, on this fateful night in July of 1996, had turned and become the third man for the NWO? Let's dive in and see what we get here. So at Bash at the Beach, 1996, you got none other than Hall and Nash versus Sting, Macho Man Randy Savage, and Lex Luger. Now, if you watch the initial match, Luger gets hurt very early on in the match, and it plants seeds that, he may just be the third man. Because the whole time I remember watching as a kid, thinking, this diabolical Luger, he's going to just jump up and miraculously come back and be the third man. He did not. It was Hogan, but in our tale, this still happens. Luger still takes the bad bump to the outside of the ring, never to recover and return in the match, thus making it Sting and Macho versus the Outsiders. Well, towards the end of the matchup, we hear the Outsiders jump outside the ring and they start motioning for their third man, thus playing the Hulkster's music. That's right, people. We get the Hulkster's music. Everybody's looking like, what? Is the Hulkster the third man? You know Bobby Heenan is having a field day with this. I've told you people for years. But we get the Hulkster's music. Everybody's looking and distracted, but no Hulkster. The Macho Man, he is clearly there throwing hands up going, I told y'all about Hogan all along. Next thing you know, Sting blasts the Macho Man from behind, allowing Hall and Nash to come in, get the cover, and the win. Holy shit. Sting is our third man. Sting cuts an epic heel promo, telling the little stingers they can stick it because he did it for the money. It's all about the money from here forward. What if? What if the next night on Nitro, we set up the NWO coming down to the ring, and they go to talking about the fact that they have a major benefactor and that it's on the way. He is signing the checks and he's getting it done. And not only that, there will be more members of the NWO. This would lead Savage and the Luger to come down to the ring, catching a hell of a beatdown from the three men, because 3-on-2 any day of the week, the numbers just ain't widget player. Early August, we start setting up the feud for the Giant, who is going to also try to wave the banner of WCW. He's the WCW champion. At this point, he's relatively unbeaten for the most part, other than a loss or two against Hogan. He's pretty damn unstoppable in 96. Giant was a beast. So we're going to set up Sting versus the Giant for the WCW Championship at Hog Wild. Well, this is going to go much like you think it's going to go. You got some outside shenanigans, you got some interference, and the NWO is going to help Sting propel himself to once again be the WCW champion. But he says, no, 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 no. I'm not the WCW champion. I'm the NWO champion. The next night on Nitro, the benefactor arrives. None other than Ted DiBiase, the $1 trillion man. That's right, people. The $1 trillion man, Ted DiBiase, gets out of his limo with the NWO and marches to the ring, telling everybody that he was the dollars and cents behind the NWO. He was the one from day one, pulling the strings, setting up things for the NWO's rise to fame. Who do you think could sway the Stinger? He was the one signing the checks. Because at the end of the day, every man has a price, and Sting's not the last one. Ha 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 ha! That's right, people. The $1 Million Man has arrived. The next week on Nitro, we start off with none other than the NWO just jumping WCW. Who's going to come down for the save? The Giant. That's right, people. Your former WCW champion, Dungeon of Doom member, he runs down to the ring, clears house, makes everyone think he is the man. Then the next thing you know, up, down with WCW and Ric Flair, the Giant has joined the NWO. What if? What if at this point the $1 trillion man, Ted DiBiase, jumps into the ring, hands the briefcase full of cash to the Giant, and they are now NWO for life? What if the next week on Nitro, the Hulkster finally returns? He finally makes his appearance, coming down the ring and saying, you know what, NWO, I don't like what you're doing here. I'm fixing to lay the bottom line down to you. I challenge you for War Games. That's right, people. The match beyond. Fall Brawl, War Games with the Hulkster. Well, this was set up for the Macho Man and Lex Luger to come down the ringside and say, just where the hell have you been while we've been getting our asses kicked for the last few months? You out in Hollywood playing a movie star. We're here defending WCW getting our asses kicked. Well, now this would anger the Hulkster, who's like, who are you to question what I'm doing? I'm literally waving the banner. Who do you think put WCW on the map, mainstream-wise? Because, like it or not, Hogan done it in '94. They had been floundering for years. The Hulkster arrives. Savior, so to speak. What if? What if this pisses Hogan off to the point where he says, okay, we're going to do this here. And Macho looks at him and says, I never trusted you, brother, and I'm not trusting you now. Yeah. So, the Hulkster goes to none other than the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, the dirtiest player in the game, telling him, you know the Stinger better than anybody. I want you in War Games with us. So you have a good little feud the next couple of weeks there leading into War Games with none other than Team WCW of Hogan, Savage, Luger, and Flair versus Team NWO with Sting, the Outsiders, and the Giant. Now this is going to go just like you think it's going to go. There's a lot of dissension on the side of WCW. And unfortunately, they wind up working against one another more than they work together. Up and back and forth, up and down match. Pretty well predictable, so to speak. Leading into the tail end of the match where the Hulkster just has enough. He belts Macho Man, drops the leg drop, setting up Sting for the win and leaves. The next night on Nitro, the Hulkster comes down to the ring and he's not in the red and yellow. He's in a black attire and everybody's questioning, has the Hulkster joined the NWO? He gets into the ring and says, how dare you question me? How dare you little Hulkamaniacs turn your backs on me? No, I'm not NWO, but I'm damn sure not WCW either. From this point forward, you're either with me or you're against me. Setting up Hogan's anti-hero turn. Now Hogan will exit the arena at this point and Hogan will be gone for some little time after that. But, however, the Macho Man will come in to save the day and he challenges Sting to a world title matchup at Halloween Havoc. Sting comes out onto the ramp and he gladly accepts. Just for the NWO of the Giant, Hall Nash, and the debuting Six to jump Macho Man, whooping the shit out of him, just putting them things on him. What if? What if the next week on Nitro, Macho comes to the ring and says, you know what, Sting? I got something for you. I got a secret corner man that's going to be in my corner at Halloween Havoc. We're going to even the odds. I got the ultimate corner man. Thus making a lot of speculation. Is it Warrior? What if? What if then Sting comes out and he laughs at the Macho Man? Tell him, you know what, you bring any one of them old dusty old relics you got in your corner, that's fine. You'll see exactly why I am the cornerstone of WCW. Why I am the franchise, the icon, the main event, the man around here. Why I am not only the person that built it, but its destruction, its Ragnarok. You'll see, Savage, you in any one of those relics of your past. What if? What if at Halloween Havoc, the NWO goes on a tear this night, with the Outsiders winning the World Tag Team Championships from Harlem Heat, much like they did in regular continuity. We're going to do that. Six will go on to win the Cruiserweight title that very night. They're on a tear. They're looking like they're going to really do some stuff going into the main event. Sting and DiBiase come out to the ring, get in the ring, pose around, and do their thing. Well, then the Macho Man comes with none other than Rowdy Roddy Piper. That's right. The Hot Rod's bagpipes play, setting up for the Hot Rod to show and get in the corner. What if? What if they have a great match back and forth, but it just looks like at the end that the Macho Man's getting the upper hand. He starts to do his thing and he's really starting to go on a roll. Then, like always, we have the ref bump. That's right, people. Even in what if continuity, the ref bump is still a thing. So, the ref takes his typical ref bump. DiBiase goes to jump into the ring with the world title to try to smash Macho with it, but Piper intervenes, belting DiBiase one good time. Macho goes up to the top rope, dropping the iconic elbow down on Sting for the 1, 2, 3. But wait, here's the problem. The ref, he is still out. Macho's like, what the hell, people? He's looking all around. At this point, DiBiase has recovered, belts Piper in the head, who falls into Savage, setting Savage up for a Scorpion Death Drop. The ref goes to wake him up. 1, 2, 3. And still WCW champion, the Stinger. Now the next night on Nitro, Savage will come down to the ring and he's pretty pissed. He's typical Macho Man. Yeah. Stinger, I had you last night. If it hadn't been for Piper, if Piper would have pulled his weight, I'd be the WCW champion. Yeah. Piper would then come down to the ring pleading with Savage, telling him, you know, Macho, that's not what happened, man. They just got the better of us, but we're still the guys. The NWO would come out scoffing, laughing, having a good old time at Macho and Piper's expense. What if? What if at this point, J.J. Dillon, the authority figure for WCW, comes down to the ring and says, you know what, guys, I got a great idea. How about tonight, in our main event on Nitro, we have none other than the Macho Man and Rowdy Piper going 2-on-2 with the Giant and Sting. What if? What if during this matchup, it's a great back and forth contest, then Sting holds Piper. He's got Savage ready for the Giant to put the weapon of mass destruction, the big punch, on to Savage. Unfortunately, Savage slips through, drops down, and the Giant belts Sting, who crumbles, being out cold into Piper's sleeper hold. What if at this point they subdue the Giant? Sting is out from the punch from the Giant, and he winds up getting a submission loss to Piper and Savage. What if? What if at this point Piper grabs the world title like he's the world champion, hoists it in the air, and then him and Savage haul ass to close out Nitro with the title? What if? What if the next week on Nitro, Savage and Piper come down to the ring, parading around with the world title? Piper acting just like he's the world champion. He's done it. He's done it all. He is the man now. Only for the NWO to come out and tell him, you're not the champion, and we're going to prove it right now. Out comes J.J. Dillon. J.J. Dillon looking at Piper saying, I know you feel like the man, but you aren't the man. Unfortunately, Sting is still our champion. Dylan gets the title back, gives it over to Sting. Sting is parading around, and he tells him at this point, but don't celebrate too fast, champ, because I got something for you. At World War III, much like the Battle Royal where every man's for himself, so will our main event, as we will have a triple threat cage match for the WCW World Championship with Macho, Piper, and Sting. What if? What if going into World War III and the World War III Battle Royal, the Giant still wins, much like he did in regular continuity? We'll stick with that. We like that, so to speak. What if, after the matchup, Mean Gene goes to interview the Giant, who just kind of gets carried away with himself, and, you know, afterwards he's like already discrediting Sting. Say, you know what, Savage, Piper, do your thing tonight, because I can guarantee you, now that I'm the #1 contender, I'm going to bring that title back home to the NWO. He's elated. He's happy. He won the big one. He's the #1 contender. He's not thinking about Sting prevailing. What if? Now, what if this does not sit very well with the NWO? As Six kind of stirs the pot with DiBiase and Sting. What if? What if during the main event match with Piper, Savage, and Sting, Piper and Savage initially worked together really well, getting the better of the Stinger. I mean, it looks like it's curtains for the NWO and the world title. Looks like they're going to get the better of him. But then, like all triple threats, all alliances get off the table when it's who's going to be the one to pin him. The next thing you know, Piper, Savage start to battle a little bit. Piper goes to punch Sting. Sting drops. Piper belts Savage, setting up the distrust. What if? What if at this point, then Sting starts to gain a little momentum. He starts to build a little offense on Piper, getting the better of him, so to speak. But where's Macho? Oh my God, Macho has climbed to the top of the cage, dropping off with a double axe handle onto Piper. Looks at the Stinger, tells him to pin him. Go for it. He's yours. What if? What if the next night on Nitro, the NWO come out full crew? They got something to celebrate. Giant won World War III. The Outsiders are still the tag champs. Six, the cruiserweight champion. Sting still our world heavyweight champion. They're in the ring looking very celebratory. But then Sting looks at the Giant and says, what the hell was that piece of business last night? How come you went into business for yourself? What's the deal with you counting me out? What if Sting tells him, prove your worth, prove what you meant, and tonight in a handicap match on Nitro, Giant, I want you to beat Savage and Piper. What if? What if at this point during the main event and the match, the Giant holds his own pretty well against Savage and Piper. Then out of nowhere, Savage turns on Piper, giving the Giant a clean dub over Piper. Next thing you know, the NWO swarm the ring thinking the Giant has proved his worth. He's earned his medal, so to speak. He's still NWO, or is he? They all jump Piper. During the course of them jumping Piper, the Giant has a giant change of heart. He says, you know what? No more. And he starts blasting the NWO, helping Piper, just to turn around for the Macho Man to spray him in the eyes with some spray paint. Thus setting up for the NWO to turn on Giant, beating the hell out of him. To end the show with the Giant covering and shielding Piper just to get beat up some more and get the NWO spray painted on his back. What if the next week on Nitro, Trillionaire Ted comes out and opens the show with the NWO saying, you know what? We upgraded. We got rid of a giant turd, a waste of space on the NWO, and we upgraded to a Macho Man. What if? What if at this point, J.J. Dillon comes out and says, you know what? You guys are feeling mighty good, but we got Starrcade coming up. So how about at Starrcade, it's none other than Roddy Piper and the Giant versus Macho Man and Six. What if? But what if at this point he looks at the old Stinger and says, you know what, Stinger? I ain't forgot about you either, and I got something for you too, buddy. At Starrcade, in the main event for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship, it will be none other than Sting versus the 14-time heavyweight champion of the world, the limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, son of a gun, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. At this point, Ric Flair will come out and let Sting know, nobody knows you better, Stinger. Who do you think planted the roots and taught you how to be the dirtiest player in the game? The Nature Boy. And at Starrcade, I will be the 15-time heavyweight champion of the world. Woo! You'd have a good build-up going back and forth into this right here. This could be a great, great show. Heading into Starrcade. At Starrcade, the Outsiders would successfully defend their World Tag Team titles against the Steiners of all people. Steiner line did not happen that night, people. I'm sorry. It just didn't happen. However, in the Macho Man Giant debacle of a tag match, Roddy Piper and the Giant would get the W over the NWO as they would choke slam 6. The Macho Man would flee the ring in fear, leaving poor Six-Pac to catch the loss. It's over. It's done for. So they're batting 1 for 2 at this point. But they still got a matchup left. You still got the World Heavyweight Championship. And in an epic heel promo with Sting and trillionaire Ted DiBiase, they let Ric Flair know, you know what, Flair? I'm not that punk-ass kid you fought at Clash of Champions all those years ago when you prevailed. No. I'm the man now. You're no longer the man. You're the has-been. I'm the man here. And I'm going to show you tonight why I'm the cornerstone of WCW and the foundation for the NWO. This sets up a matchup between Flair and Sting like we've always got. They always had epic matchups. But what if on this night, you got a little outside shenanigans from both sides. You got the Horsemen showing up, Double A putting the spine buster on the Stinger. You got Ted DiBiase and the Macho Man getting their 2 cents in, where the Macho Man's trying to redeem himself for being cowardly earlier in the night. What if? But what if at some point, Flair starts to get the better of the old Stinger, setting him up in the figure 4. That's right, people. Sting is just writhing in pain. It's looking every bit like he's going to give up. However, at this point, Ted DiBiase distracts the old ref. Sting reaches in the tights, pulling out a pair of brass knucks, blasts Flair in the head. He goes for the cover, but he's a wounded animal, right? 1, 2, kick out. Sting is in disbelief. How did Flair do this? Flair, you just set through a blast from a set of brass knuckles. How? Sting has to mount a little offense at this point, finally setting up the Scorpion Death Drop. 1, 2, 3 for the win. Sting retains at Starrcade. What if the next night on Nitro, Lex Luger comes down to the ring and tells the Stinger, you've been ducking and dodging me since day 1. I'm tired of this right here. I'm here to show you I'm WCW, and I challenge you tonight in the main event. Of course, Sting's going to try to get out of this. He just defended the title last night at Starrcade against Flair. But what if at this point, J.J. Dillon tells him, no, you're going to defend the title tonight, and you're going to defend it against Lex Luger. What if? What if on this very night, the NWO realizes it's time to get a little more strength in numbers, people. We need to bolster our ranks, so to speak. What if on this night, they finally make the offer to none other than DDP, the People's Champion? Now, as you know, DDP had deep roots with both Hall and Nash when they were Vinny Vegas and the Diamond Stud before they ever left to the WWF to become who they became. What if? What if on this night, Diamond Dallas Page teases putting on the NWO shirt, making the fans in disbelief? Or is he going to turn? But no, out of nowhere, Diamond Cutter on Scott Hall. Escapes through the crowd much like he did in the past, setting it up to where it is none other than DDP, bang, versus the NWO. What if? What if later in the night, during the main event, Sting finds a way to underhandedly prevail over the total package, Lex Luger? Now, then you know what's going to happen. NWO hit the ring. They go to putting them things on the total package. But out comes Flair, the Giant, Piper, even DDP. They storm the ring trying to help the guys out, but you know what? It's just too much. They can't do it. The NWO prevails. All of a sudden, the lights go out. It's pitch black, people. Then up at the top of the ramp, a singular headlight appears. By that time, we hear those familiar chords of Jimi Hendrix Voodoo Child. Lights come on, and it's the Hulkster. But he's not really the Hulkster. He's in all black, looking really badass. What if then the Hulkster comes down to the ring on his Harley Davidson, gets off, and clears house, whooping ass, taking names, so to speak. But he's not acting like the Hulkster. What you gonna do, brother? He's acting like a real badass at this point, using a modified rock bottom as his finisher called the Hulk Buster to end the night and clear the NWO out. What if? What if the next week on Nitro, the Hulkster appears on his bike once more? He tells the NWO, look here, I'm not here to save WCW. I'm not his savior. I'm your destruction. I'm here to destroy the NWO brick by brick. I'm tired of it. Like I said before, you're either with me or you're against me. Out comes the NWO, and he tells them all, I'm starting with you 6. I'm going to work up to you, big man. Sting looks in fear. The Hulkster tries to fiend everybody off. Then out comes Lex Luger. Lex Luger tells him, I got your back, Hulkster. Luger's out with Bat. They try to clear house, making things to where it's a little bit more one-on-one-ish. Going into the main event of the night, where the Hulkster would soundly defeat 6. Putting the Hulk Buster on him, getting the 1, 2, 3. Now, let's just be honest. The Hulk Buster at this point, the modified rock bottom, will be a far superior move for the Hulkster. He could put some longevity to his career. You know, getting rid of the phony-looking leg drop that by this point was no longer what it was in the 80s. What if? What if at this point, this sets up Sting and Hogan going into 1997? What if? Now, this would round out our 96. This is the end of December 96. We're entering January 96 with Hogan coming back as the anti-hero. Luger aligning himself with him to get a little more edge in himself. You still got the Giant there. You got DDP there. How do you think 1997 with a Sting-led NWO would work out? Drop a comment below. Let me know what you think. What do you think what this version of Hogan would do using the Hulk Buster? Drop a comment. Let me know. Let me know if you think it's shit. Let me know if you think it's good. Did you like the original better? I don't know. You tell me. Because remember, the card is always subject to change.